some kind of outside mechanism. Look, when Benjamin Crump goes to court, and they do that voir dire where they question the potential jury, he wants to make sure that he has an unbiased jury. If it's a police case, first thing he asks is anybody there a police officer, or you have family members who are police officers or whatever? If so, out you go. Bring in somebody else so there's no bias.
Yes.
Why isn't that done when it's a police investigating the police? I'm not saying that all police investigators are biased. No, they're not. But there is the potential to be that way. Just like, you don't want doctors judging doctors on malpractice suits. You want an unbiased panel. So we need a mechanism by which police can be judged unbiasedly and other cops can report to the police without fear of retaliation.
You're an extraordinary man in your belief systems. What beliefs came from your father and your mother that you think shaped you into the person who could think this way and break through the way you have?
Well, I'm 62 years old now. My father was one of the first Black Secret Service agents in this country. Harry Anslinger, who ran the Secret Service, hired 5 Black agents at the same time for the first time. And my father was one of those. My dad wanted to be an FBI agent, and J. Edgar Hoover was not hiring any Blacks and no women. So my dad went to the Secret Service and he got hired. Later, he joined the Foreign Service, and I became an American embassy brat, traveling all over the world, living in different countries. But I started traveling overseas at the age of 3.
Oh, wow.
I lived in Africa 10 years. I lived in Europe, all with the American embassy. You go to a country for 2 years, come home, you get assigned to another country. So between traveling with my dad and my mom as a child, combined with my travels now as a professional musician playing all over the world, I've been in 57 different countries on 6 continents. So I've been exposed to a multitude of colors, ethnicities, religions, etc. And all of that, shaped who I am today. And fortunately, it started with me at an early age. But I just want to say something real quick. My favorite quote of all time is by Mark Twain. And it's called the Travel Quote. And Mark Twain said, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime." And that is so true.
And I think, what is the number? I think it's 15% or only 10% of Americans have a passport.
Yeah.
10%.
Is it 10%, Michael?
10%.
It's crazy. And people
Never gone out of the United States at all.
Let me ask you one more question. I would love to go for 2 hours with you by yourself in this. You shared a story about a Cyclops, and I think it's really instructive about what he believed about, you have a in your DNA.
Oh, yeah. You want to hear that one?
Would you share that? Because I love it. It's instructive of how you're able to break through. It gave kind of how you broke through his psychology. Would you share that briefly?
Sure. I mean, the key to my success in doing this is, even though the headlines will say Black musician converts 50 Klan members, 200 Klan members, or whatever they say, no, I did not convert those people. I am the impetus for over 200 white supremacists getting out of those organizations. But what I do is I plant a seed and I nourish that seed, and they end up converting themselves, which is always more powerful than you trying to make somebody do something. When it's their idea, it will last a lot longer. So I was in my car and I had an exalted Cyclops riding in my car beside me. We're talking, we're just driving along, and we're in the Washington, D.C. area. And he made the statement, which I've heard 1,000 times, that Black people have a gene within them. We're born with this gene that makes us violent. And so I said, well, how do you figure that? He says, well, look, who's doing all the drive-bys and carjackings in Southeast? He's referring to Southeast Washington, D.C., which is predominantly Black. There's some white people who live there, but it's predominantly Black and very high crime ridden. I said, okay, it's Black people. I said, but you're not considering the demographics. That's what lives there. I said, who's doing all the crime in Bangor, Maine? White people, because that's what lives there. I said, you're not considering the demographics. He goes, no, that has nothing to do with it. You all have that gene. And I said, listen, let me tell you something. I said, I'm as Black as anybody you've ever seen. I said, I have never done a drive-by. I have never done a carjacking. How do you explain that? He didn't even think about it for 1 second. He answered me like that. He said, your gene is latent, hasn't come out yet. I was dumbfounded. I was speechless. How do you argue with somebody like that? He's so far out, you can't even bite into that. And so he's sitting there all smug, like, you see, you got nothing to say. So I thought about it, and I said, well, you know, all white people have a gene within them that makes them a serial killer. And he says, well, why, how do you figure? I said, name me 3 black serial killers. He couldn't do it. I said, I'm going to give you one. I named one for him. I said, now, just name me 2. All I want is 2. He couldn't do it. I said, Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer, Henry Lee Lucas, John Wayne Gacy, Albert DeSalvo, the Boston Strangler, Ted Bundy, David Berkowitz, Son of Sam, on and on. I said, son, they're all white. You're a serial killer. He said, Daryl, I've never killed anybody. I said, your gene is latent, hasn't come out yet. He goes, well, that's stupid. I said, well, duh. I said, you're right, it is stupid, but it's no more stupid for me to say that about you than what you said about me. And he got very quiet. I could see that his mind was spinning. And he didn't say anything for a minute or so, and then he changed the subject. But within 5 months, based on that conversation, he quit the Klan, and I also have his robe. In fact, his robe was the first robe that I got. Now, and I know you got to get some more people, but I just want to say, I want to express my condolences to everybody on here, for the racism and the violence that's been enacted on all of you. It's something that none of us should have to endure. So please accept my condolences. And I also want to put out a debt of gratitude, a thanks to all the white people who joined in with us in these protests. Because, as Martin Luther King III said, there's always been white people since the civil rights movement began with his father, who marched with us, but never have we seen this en masse, this big. So now, where they weren't listening to black voices, they're listening to this collective voice because they see so many people who look like them. So it's that collective voice that's finally, making them take off the earplugs. And that the officer who knelt on George Floyd's neck, he had a 19-year career and he had 18 complaints. So 18 people had voices, and they didn't listen to one of those voices. Maybe if the brass who you complained to had listened to one of those 18 voices, they might have reprimanded or corrected Derek Chauvin's behavior.